Hello, community, and welcome back to another Keeping It Real with Dr. Anita podcast. I am your host, Dr. Anita Polite-Wilson, founder and CEO of Dr. Anita Enterprises. As a C-suite trusted advisor and board director, I help other members of the C-suite reframe diversity conversations from difficult to different. This is February, during which time we celebrate Black History Month, and I'm so excited to say that in 2023, Dr. Anita Enterprises Incorporated is celebrating its founding 5 years ago on February 18th, 2018. All month long, I'm hosting real conversations from the C-suite with clients that I've asked to share reflections of their belonging journey with me as their consultant. Today, I'm so excited to have the crew from Easterseals Southern California in the house. Dr. Beverlyn Mendez, Chief Operating Officer, Ms. Debbie Nix, Chief People Officer, Dr. Jennifer Johnston, Vice President, Experience and Service Excellence, and Mr. Brian Nguyen, Program Director. Welcome one and all, and thank you so much for joining me today to celebrate this milestone in the life of Dr. Anita Enterprises.
Congratulations on your anniversary, Dr. Anita.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'm excited. It has been a journey of belonging for me on several different levels, and I'm just so grateful to have you all celebrating this time with me. Debbie, I want to start with you by asking you to tell the community how you found me.
Okay, so I'll give you an interesting story. I actually met you, Dr. Anita, about 5 years ago at a women's retreat where we were enjoying a day of self-care, yoga, networking, and I just could tell that you had a passion about what you were embarking upon. So I met you then, and then I also, as I joined Easterseals, was thinking about, who would be a good partner to help us in our journey. And actually, your name came up in conversation with another organization. So that's how we ended up circling back after a number of years.
I do remember that first encounter. It was called Retreat, and it was wonderful. And there I was actually invited to facilitate a little activity for all the participants. I enjoy that so much, Debbie, and I'm so glad that you reconnected and you remembered me. Thank you. I appreciate that. Dr. Johnston, you and I are hometown girls from Riverside, California, and I want you to share with the community what other connection we have in common.
Oh gosh, and I'm so excited too. And congratulations again. I know this has been a journey for you, and 5 years of this work out there has just been amazing. And I'm so grateful to have you in our experience now at Easterseals. It's so great to have a partner that's helping us through all of this wonderful work and to expand our vision. Our relationship, I'm excited to say, not only are we hometown girls from Riverside, California, Riverside in the house, right? But I attended John W. North High School, where I actually had Mrs. Polite, one of my favorite teachers in the whole wide world, who is your mom. So I had her for 2 different classes over my time there, and just was wonderful and loved her. And she was tough. I learned a lot. Yes, but just phenomenal and so supportive and always there for us as students. So it's no surprise that you are doing the work that you're doing and the support that you give and the relationships that you build with all of your clients. I know it's something that I'm very excited to see, and I see how it runs in your family.
Thank you, Dr. Johnston. I appreciate that so much. Full disclosure, community, she went to John W. North. I went to Riverside Poly High. Rivals. We had the best games, right?
Yes.
But this just goes to show that rivals can come together for a common good.
That's right. I forgive you that you went to Poly. It's okay.
Oh, thanks. And speaking of my mother, yes, she was tough. I will never forget one summer. She was an English teacher all the way up to honors English. She was chair of the yearbook committee one year, and I will never forget this as long as I live. One year, she made me read a book over the summer and write her a book report.
I love it.
Right.
I love it.
Yeah. So not only do I get my love for facilitating learning for folks, but anyone who coaches, who I coach will tell you, look out for Dr. Anita. She likes to give assignments. Well, yeah. How's she going to learn unless you have an assignment? So I'm definitely my mother's daughter. And my dad, I know, would be very proud. I know he'd be very proud.
Definitely, definitely.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing those memories. I appreciate that. Dr. Mendez, you graciously agreed to help me kick off 2023 in last month's podcast by talking about possibilities in the workplace for those with disabilities. Now, one of the thoughts that you shared with me offline was that in terms of a more inclusive workforce, many thought that LGBTQ plus awareness and acceptance was the final frontier, but disability is next. Tell us more about that thought in terms of your vision specific to accessibility.
Thank you, Dr. Anita, and thank you again for your focus on disability, on having us here today, bringing our team. We're excited to be here and chat with you. And yeah, so as it relates to accessibility, I'd love to see accessibility when it is considered universal and it's woven into everything that we do. That people with disabilities are valued in society and in our workplaces, and really accessibility is the norm. So the DEI becomes DEI and A everywhere, and accessibility is again, it's part of the fabric of people with disabilities are part of the fabric in our workforce and in society. So I think we're headed there, and that's really where Easterseals is supporting people to be as well.
Yeah, I agree with you. When you talk about disability and the awareness of that being raised in society, I remember hearing over the summer about the fact that I think it's Chili's is considered a top-ranking restaurant for those with disabilities because they have ramps and tables and seating areas specifically for those that are in wheelchairs. Is that the type of awareness that you're thinking of, and are we on the right road?
Yes, and then it's not. Yes, so it's when organizations like Chili's and Easterseals and other employers are doing things that are not to check the box because it's a requirement, but it's to be inclusive, to assure that people with disabilities, seniors, everyone feels welcome and accepted. And when we make things universally accessible for people with disabilities, it's more accessible for all of us. Mm-hmm. So yes, I think that's where we're headed.
I was really excited to read that particular article because I love Chili's. I think they have some really good food. So that was just a nice ad. Debbie and Dr. Johnston, how is diversity, inclusion, and belonging woven into the culture at Easterseals? Dr. Mendez mentioned that, but tell us, how is that demonstrated?
Sure. So I'd like to continue on with its universal accessibility. And as an organization, our culture, we are building with applicants even before they start with us. So we actually really try to be open and being able to assist, whether it's applicants or associates, with any needs that they have. We actually do have a liaison who helps with accessibility within the organization. And then we also budget for anything that we need to be able to support applicants or associates within the organization. We did this year solidify our DE&I and A statement so we can continue really to hang our hat on what we stand for. And we're just continuing to educate as we move forward. The other thing is we're really making it part of the culture to have conversations, to talk about the book club that we had, Subtle Acts of Exclusion, and really just have a conversation with our associates on what does it mean and being able to comfortably have those conversations.
I appreciate that. The fact that you have a liaison there as part of the process for people coming in. Question, budget is always an issue. Is that something that other companies can benchmark and do, or is it a matter of intentionality?
Where we're working towards is really universal accessibility versus having each situation being handled separately. So we're going to just continue to build as we learn along the way on what accessibility needs are there for applicants or associates. So it's a journey to be able to build it.
I can imagine that it's a journey. Everything is a process. Everything takes time. Dr. Johnston, being over experienced, tell us how that relates to what you see woven into the fabric of Easterseals.
I think that what we've been able to demonstrate throughout the history of our organization is that we do embed the ideas and the ideals of diversity and inclusion and acceptance. Like Debbie was saying, from our recruitment opportunities. So when recruiters are going out in public, all of our materials, we've made sure that they are accessible, universally accessible, and that our wonderful inclusion, diversity, and belonging statement are all included in that, so people understand what we're about. And our organization really, with inclusion of those with disabilities, making sure that that's embedded across everything in an ongoing way. We have the opportunity to have people come in and share the conversations with us, lived experiences. We have the opportunity to have those ongoing conversations. We've hosted listening circles. We have kept up on the dynamic situations out in the world that we can make sure that we're creating a comfortable, safe, and brave space for all of our associates to be able to share their thoughts and their concerns, and then that we're taking action to support all of our associates and our participants and their families to be sure that they're experiencing the wonderful, not only equity or movement towards equity, but that sense of belonging and that sense of connection. And that's something that we enjoy here at Easterseals with our participants, with our families, but also in the broader community sense as well. So it's something that is definitely ongoing work. And I love that you all have said embedded in the work that we do, because that's really, it has to be a part of that fabric throughout.
While avoiding the disclosure of anything specific, can you give us an example of what type of brave space conversations are usually held and that are really beneficial to folks in the organization? Because I know a lot of companies talk about it's a brave space, but what does that mean in terms of actually creating a psychologically safe space?
Right. Well, I think not only have we started with our leaders and our management, those who are supervisors, to be able to understand the language that's needed in an inclusive space and in a diverse space, understanding, what we might need to unlearn with maybe some old ways of thinking or some old language that we might be using. So starting there to really open up the conversation that we want to be able to have these conversations and navigate them appropriately as they come up. We've also been able to bring people into our experience. So, we have our relationship with you where we've been able to offer trainings on everything from microaggressions to that wonderful book club that was mentioned by Debbie with, our subtle acts of exclusion. And that work has cascaded down, but also we have groups within Easterseals where we are listening to our participants. So individuals with disabilities belong to an affinity group here that is Our Voices Matter, where we are listening to what their needs are and responding to how we can improve our services, and then also looking at legislature and advocacy and all of the needs that just human beings have. So when we talk about creating that safe space, we're really in that process of making sure that we are able to open up the time with our listening circles. We're going to be doing another set of listening circles coming up in March with our wonderful associates to understand their values and how they're demonstrating those values and how they connect with our work here at Easterseals. But really being able to create the space, the time, and that's what I mean by the space in that scenario, right? How do we allow our wonderful, very busy associates to come, participate? If they can't participate, then listen afterwards. But really having that sensitivity to the language that we're using and what's going on in their lives, as well as the lives of our participants.
I really appreciate the fact that you mentioned it starts with leadership first. It starts with leadership setting the tone at the top amongst themselves, demonstrating inclusivity and belonging amongst themselves in order for it to effectively cascade through the rest of the organization. And I'm reminded of something that Dr. Mendez had said last month when she talked about nothing about us without us. Did I get that right, Dr. Mendez?
Yes, you did.
Yeah, I think that's so important to involve everyone in a conversation, but that leadership leads the way. Brian, as the program director, you and I have collaborated extensively over the past 6 months on designing and delivering webinars that align with RISE. Tell the community what that acronym stands for.
So RISE stands for RS stands for respect, I stands for inclusion, and then E stands for self-awareness, and then S stands for self-awareness, and then E stands for equity. Just with that acronym, I would just point out the inclusion aspects of it. Like I feel comfortable in collaborating with the different leaders of our organization, and just that example alone is like I'm able to collaborate with our leaders, our organization, give feedback, and be appreciated in being our RISE group. And I really appreciate that. And I would just like to let all the other associates know as well that the opportunity is there if you take it, and that our leaders are listening to what we're saying and what we need for our organization to, like Bev said, equity, inclusion, and belonging is the fabric of our organization, which we've been around for over 100 years. So I think that's just an example of why the RISE team is so committed. And I always try not to use the language of initiative and projects, because I feel like it's already ingrained in our culture, and so that we're working towards that, and we're improving as an organization. Yeah,
I agree with you and both JJ when we talk about the importance of language. I myself let prospective clients know, if you're looking for check the box initiatives, I'm not the one for you. But if you're looking for change the culture behaviors, let's have a conversation. So with that in mind, whenever we've designed our webinars, I like to always hang the topic on self-awareness, because that's really what it's about. The more self-aware we are, the better we can manage the intentions of our words and actions with the impacts that our words and actions have on others. So Brian, what kind of feedback are you hearing, and what impacts are you seeing as a result of the webinars that we conduct in support of RISE?
So Dr. Anita, we've been working through the late summer months and the fall, starting out in September with our initial training on subtle acts of inclusion with microaggressions. Just bring awareness to microaggressions. Along the way, Dr. Anita, we have learned a lot as an agency. Accessibility. We learned and we learned about what our agency and associates and individuals want next as well. But the feedback has been tremendous. I think the number one thing that I get from a lot of the feedback is that the safe space that you create for our associates, our individuals, to voice their thoughts and opinions, and talk about situations that they go through with programs and in their everyday life as well during the trainings. Especially during the second part of subtle acts of inclusion with our panel discussion. If you watch the video, you can just see our associates, our panelists, felt very comfortable speaking about sensitive subjects and regarding microaggressions and their experiences, and you can just see it, and the raw emotion and their ability just to express themselves. I think that just alone tells you what kind of feedback you get from those types of trainings.
Dr. Anita, the other thing I think about our book club that you launched for us is our leaders have now taken the books to their wonderful teams. And I know in HR, that a certain leader of our HR department made sure that everyone had a copy of the book, and there's ongoing conversation that's happening as we're having those wonderful, just at the beginning of a check-in, our meetings, when we get all together, having some conversation about it. And I know that that's happened in some of our other service lines too, with our other leaders, that they've really taken back, this is what we did, this is what I learned, and now I'd like to do this with you, and making sure that we're continuing to push that conversation out into every corner, and that everyone has access to it. So that's been really, really cool to see.
That is a wonderful piece of feedback to hear. Thank you, JJ. That is just amazing. And that's the whole point of these particular activities, especially the webinars. They're open to whomever can attend, But then what's most important is what happens after that. Are people taking the learning and applying it? So Dr. Johnston, thank you so much for sharing that with the group.
Can I add, Dr. Anita, just on observations of changes that we've seen? Associates do feel comfortable about stepping forward and wanting to have a conversation. I've gotten a number of calls, just people are curious. They want to know about what our RISE team's doing. They want to know about resources, or they want to know how they can get involved. So just being able to open the door and have people feel comfortable to have those conversations has definitely been a step in the right direction.
I want to commend you for being able to carry forth that kind of steam after over 100 years. Dr. Mendez, how is that happening? How is that even possible? What are you and Debbie and Dr. Johnston and Brian doing to make that a thing over 100 years? Tell us.
Well, Easterseals Southern California, Easterseals as a whole is a dynamic, innovative organization, and it's all about the leadership and all of our associates and our mission, and all those come together in such a way that the magic happens, and we're continually working to evolve and innovate, and we're a learning organization. We know that there's much to learn, and we're always there at the table trying to get there. And Dr. Anita, I want to acknowledge and thank you for the way that you came into Easterseals Southern California. I really appreciate the way that you got to know us so quickly. You brought your wisdom to our team. You're able to speak with our associates, our participants across all levels within the organization. And you're continuing to grow with us and learn with us. So we really appreciate working with you. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that acknowledgement that yes, while I'm considered a thought leader in the space, I am always learning and growing. And that's something that we should all be doing. Whether it's this work or anything else of our lives, we can never say, oh, check mark, I got that. There's always something else to learn, always. And that is the benefit of the work that I do. I get to work and learn alongside of my clients. I have one final question for each of you, and it's this. What is the value you have experienced in the short time that we've been partnering together? And I know you've all alluded to that in different ways, but if you could think of one thing that could be a takeaway for anyone in the community who's listening, what would that be? The value that you've experienced in the short time we've been partnering together.
Well, I'll start if it's okay. And I would say, Dr. Anita, again, going back to you coming in and working with us, learning our organization so quickly and coming in, it's really helped us to open the conversations within the organization so that people are feeling like we have safe spaces and know that we're willing to bring in someone with your level of expertise and knowledge to help navigate difficult conversations. So really helping us to open that up in the organization has been tremendous.
Thank you, Dr. Mendez, and it has been a pleasure. Thank you.
I want to build on what Dr. Mendez just said because it's so true. I think the comfortability has improved. I think self-awareness and understanding of my own feelings about how I may think I am acting inclusive or that I am, creating that sense of belonging versus now I've unlearned some things that I greatly have appreciated. And it's allowed us to expand our conversation even to our wonderful, when we survey our incredible associates and we're looking at their experience, we're including conversations about the experience through that lens of diversity, equity, and inclusion and belonging. So I think the expansion and the broadening of the conversation, because we feel more equipped with the tools that we have now to navigate that conversation and to continue to grow.
Thank you, Dr. Johnston. And from your perspective as a VP of Experience and Service Excellence, I take that as a very high compliment. Thank you. Debbie and Brian, last question what is the value that you've experienced in the short time that we've been partnering together? Debbie and then Brian.
Okay, great. Thank you. So during the time that you've been with us, I think you've just brought kind of a calm to being able to get people to feel comfortable to step in. And then also including associates and some of our partners in panels has really helped with the conversation and getting individuals to really share their perspective and feel comfortable with it. And that helps all of us learn when we hear exactly how someone is feeling or what they would like to see different. And just the conversation about making sure that accessibility or disabilities are included in any work that any organization does in the DE&I space. So we really appreciate that you've helped us advance that.
I'm remembering that panel, and I've done several panels. That was phenomenal on so many different levels. The panelists were so real. They were so brave, so authentic, and their stories were so moving. I am still thinking about one gentleman in particular who's just amazing. So thank you for the honor of facilitating that conversation. Brian, you get the last word, my friend. What is the value that you've experienced in the short time that we've been partnering together?
Hi, Dr. Nia. First of all, I'd just like to say your flexibility with, just working together, collaborating with our team and with myself, and you don't hesitate to take that call when I ask, can I call you real fast? And then you right ahead, I'll call you. But what you brought to our RISE team and our agency is that you provided that safe space for our associates, and just for them and for us and for myself as well to really bring our true self to our work, and support the individuals that attend our programs. But just working with you and collaborating with you, just the knowledge and the takeaways that we take from our initial training and our panel discussion, and to our book club as well, that we can take back to our work and apply it, and be more aware of microaggressions. When we're going through that book club, one thing that stood out to me was being aware of what we're saying, our language that we use every day, just not with our individuals. One of the feedback, Dr. Nate, I got was that we're very careful with the language that we use around our individuals and the people that we support, but the language that sometimes with our teams and our fellow colleagues, sometimes maybe might be overlooked a little bit. And with the book club, it brought awareness for me that I can take back to the work and be a better leader. Create a more inclusive environment for everyone to come to work and be themselves and be able to voice their thoughts and opinions and just be comfortable. I think that's the number one thing that you have brought to our agency with these trainings and just your knowledge.
Thank you, Brian. I appreciate that. That just emphasizes the ABCs of attitudes, beliefs, and conversations, whether it's with our clients or whether it's on our teams. Are we being consistent? Dr. Beverlyn Mendez, Chief Operating Officer, Ms. Debbie Nix, Chief People Officer, Dr. Jennifer Johnston, Vice President, Experience and Service Excellence, and Mr. Brian Nguyen, Program Director. I want to thank you all so much for joining me today as we celebrate the partnership between Easterseals Southern California and Dr. Anita Enterprises. Thank you so much for your time and your support and your encouragement. Community, if you'd like to hear this real conversation from the C-suite with Dr. Anita again, you know where to go. To my website, dranita.com. On the landing page in the top in the center, click on the link that says Keeping It Real Podcast with Dr. Anita. Please remember to follow, like, and share. And if anything from this conversation, of the many things that were shared, if anything from this conversation helped you reframe diversity conversations from difficult to different, please share with your network. Until next time, this is Dr. Anita reminding you to stay blessed and keep it real.